Hi, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Hayden.
And this is...
Until the End of Crime. Welcome, besties. We're so glad to have you here for another episode of Until the End of Crime.
Thank you so much for tuning in, for downloading this episode, for listening to this episode.
Rating and reviewing all of our different episodes on Spotify, leaving us comments, leaving us questions on the YouTube videos that I see weeks and weeks later.
Leaving us comments on our Spotify episodes, even though I don't want to encourage people to use Spotify, but I usually see those weekly. Supporting us on Patreon, we have a new patron.
A new patron?
Yeah. Shout out to Tracy.
Tracy?
Yeah.
Does she have a username?
I don't know. We also got a message from somebody in Australia last week.
Oh, we just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. Are you going to read it?
Guys, just wanted to share my review on Podcast Addict. I wasn't sure if you'd see it or if it's only Apple Podcast reviews that are visible to you. Love the podcast. Thanks for the laughs and great stories. Love from Australia. And it says, one of my favorite podcasts. The stories are well told and the friendship between the two hosts shines throughout. Highly recommend.
OMG. Our Australian listener, thank you so much. Did they give us any kind of name?
That's Jackie, yeah.
Jackie, thank you so much. That's so sweet. You really put me in a good mood to tell a story today.
Special shout out to everybody who's listening, but extra special to Jackie and Tracy.
The real truth is I've had a rough couple of weeks, and so hearing any kind of positive feedback is so welcome. It's so appreciated. And I'm just really glad that you guys are here with us on the ride, bestieing it out. I know sometimes when I'm listening to Cameron and I talk, I think, wow, this is awful. And so to know that you have a good time listening to us, that means the world to me. So thank you. Cameron's laughing, holding the bridge of her nose. I don't know what's going on exactly.
Because why do you think that it's awful? What are we still doing here?
No, sorry. Well, so not necessarily the podcast aspect, but just regular conversations. And to be fair, we don't have as many of those as we used to, right? Distance has made that a little difficult. Not working with someone day by day also changes that a little bit, but thankful for these precious and few. Yeah.
Also different jobs, like new jobs that we've been working on. I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, I feel like I'm infiltrating something with a really steep learning curve. So
well, and also like the entire context of our lives have changed so majorly.
P-E-E.
Also, I want to say on air that my cousin Sadie, who is an avid listener, had a wonderful and beautiful wedding. I took Andrew down to my hometown, and he went with me to the wedding, and we had a really great experience. Do I think everybody there was maybe super happy to see us there? I don't know, but I know that my cousin asked me to be there, and the large majority of the people that we did see were very sweet, loving, and kind. But yes, my cousin Sadie had a beautiful wedding. Welcome to the family, Brandon. We all think you're wonderful. And you are, even when I was teaching you and you were a 7th grader and you were showing me magic tricks. You were great then, you're great now. So we're so happy to have you.
I'm not exactly sure what this podcast is right now, but
it's the news from Ray Point, like my grandma used to write, except now I'm just narrating it for our listeners. You probably don't care. Cameron can cut as much of this as she wants to. I'm just giving you a lowdown of where we've been for the last several weeks. Because it has been a long time.
It was when you said, welcome to the family, and you were doing your, like, direct address to somebody that I was like, I don't think I can cut this.
Oh. Well, they do listen. Like, I have found out that A lot of my family is listening, and I think that's very sweet. They are observing my behavior. They have... One of them commented, I obviously get fatigued while I'm listening at times, right? Mm-hmm. And you know me well enough to know when that happens. Hearing them point it out to me is crazy, because I did not expect that. And they were like, oh, it sounded like you were getting tired at this point, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, thank you so much. That's lovely. But they are listening. They are kindly critiquing. But it was really lovely to be in a position where I was around so much of my family at once, and things were so nice. And so I felt a lot of love at an event that was not about me in any capacity. And I'm just glad I got to experience that and share that with my husband, who also had a really good time.
Good. Who are you saying is you aren't sure that they were happy to see you there?
I don't want to get too specific.
At the risk of me knowing?
There are still people who are incredibly homophobic. Oh, and the cake was delicious. The cake was delicious. The cake was delicious. The band that played my Aunt Crystal and Uncle Jason's wedding is the same band who played my cousin Sadie's. So the same band who played the mom's wedding played the daughter's wedding, which was cute and sweet in its own way.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the question?
Yeah, hopefully I can make this sound like a natural transition from where we left off.
Where we've been.
The wedding, all the way to now.
Cameron, can you tell me and the listeners one of your favorite pieces of gay rights history?
I'll tell the listeners, but I will not tell you.
Perfect. Allow me to take off my headphones. No. Disengaging.
Wait, no. My favorite piece of gay rights. What?
Any parts of gay rights history. It can even be as simple as a figure or an event.
I mean, the legalization of marriage was pretty cool.
Same-sex marriage.
Right. Well, if it's not legal for all, then it's not legal, is it?
Well, we say that, but then there's also the issue of child marriage in several southern states.
Based on the lack of congressional action, it doesn't seem like it's actually an issue at all in America. Allegedly.
Say that from the comfort of your home in the UK.
Hey, I got a spare bed. I got a new mattress yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You're welcome to come say it from the comfort of my home in the UK as well. Yeah, the legalization of marriage for all adults to marry other consenting adults. Does that cover it?
I think so.
Without allowing for bestiality and child marriage and...
Yeah. Yeah, I think queer history is incredibly, it lacks sufficient documentation. We have these historical figures.
Like Q dressed as the brick from Stonewall.
Yes. Or like Abraham Lincoln, where we attribute his longtime good friend, potential roommate. Mary Todd was not. Anyways, we have all of these different elements,
he had more
right?
than one beard, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And we have a really rich history that's underreported and underdocumented. And if we look at the ones that we do have really good record of, right? Stonewall, the first brick thrown, that's part of my favorite.
On this very podcast.
Yes. That's one of my favorite parts of gay rights, queer rights, and queer history. Also, the response to the AIDS epidemic and the way the queer community mobilized to take care of each other, and really lesbians have to get a huge shout out.
Lesbians!
Yes. They deserve all the flowers, all the credit for taking care of gay men while they were ailing and sick and no one else would touch them. And the Reagan administration sat on their fucking thumbs in an effort to punish queer people. And so but I find myself really proud of queer history. I feel a strong connection to it, obviously. And as much as I love talking about queer rights, today I want to talk about queer wrongs.
When Derek Barry said that a lot of people died at Stonewall. Nobody died. Nobody died?
So today, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite queer wrong stories. The man himself, Stephen J. Russell. Are you familiar with Stephen J?
No.
Well, then let's hop in.
Question mark?
Allow me to set the scene. The fax machine in the Texas parole office hummed with the mundane rhythm of bureaucracy. It was March 1998, a Friday, and the office was winding down for the weekend. The document sliding into the tray was grim, yet administratively convenient. A death certificate. The name on the certificate was Stephen J. Russell. The cause of death? Complications from acquired immune deficiency syndrome or AIDS. For the parole officers handling the file number 007600259, this was the expected conclusion to a tragic, if irritating, case. Russell had been granted a special needs parole just weeks earlier. He had been released to a nursing home in Houston, only a skeleton of a man, weighing barely 140 pounds, his body ravaged by the virus. The medical reports signed by doctors had been unequivocal. The man was terminal. He was dying, and he was no longer a threat to the state of Texas, only a burden to its medical budget. The parole officer picked up the phone to confirm. He dialed the number for the nursing home listed on the file. A doctor answered. The voice was professional, perhaps a little weary, distracted, but the doctor did confirm. Mr. Russell had passed away peacefully. The paperwork was in order. The body was being handled. The officer hung up, stamped the file with the word deceased, and the state of Texas could finally stop worrying about Stephen J. Russell. But miles away, the dead man was very much alive. The doctor on the phone had been Russell himself. The death certificate was a forgery, created with the same meticulous attention to detail he had once used to play the church organ. The wasting syndrome that had convinced a parole board to release a maximum security inmate? Pure acting, aided by a starvation diet and a ruthless commitment to his role. Stephen J. Russell hung up the phone, likely suppressing the urge to laugh, celebrate. He wasn't a ghost. He was a man in love. And he had just pulled off the most audacious magic trick in the history of the American penal system. He had died to become free, and he was already planning his next move, to find Philip Morris. That was the opening vignette.
What did you say? You said it was a magic trick? It was the most
audacious magic trick in the history of the American penal system.
The most?
Listen, I don't do a whole lot of crime breaks, prison breaks. I like his trickery, his buffoonery.
Is this from I Almost Got Away?
No, this came from, have you ever seen the movie I Love You, Philip Morris with Jim Carrey?
You know that I haven't.
I literally looked up funny gay crimes. And this is one of the ones that came up. To understand how a human being becomes a chameleon capable of deceiving judges, wardens, medical professionals, we have to look past the rap sheet. We need to examine Stephen J. Russell for who he is.
A magician.
Stephen J. Russell was born on December 31st, 1957 in Moyock, North Carolina. But the identity of Stephen J. Russell was, from the very beginning, a fiction written over what he considered a painful truth. He had been adopted.
Speaking of fiction, that's Voldemort's
Stranger than Art?
birthday. No, that's Voldemort's birthday.
Exactly 1957?
No, not 1957. Don't be ridiculous.
Oh, I'm sorry. Miss Harry Potter.
Whoa.
Miss J.K. Superfan Rowling.
Whoa. Absolutely untrue. Take it
Tell
back.
all of our
make
trans
sure that
listeners
they know
how much you love
no,
J.K.
You make sure that they know that you're being facetious right this fucking minute. That I haven't spent any money on...
Which book are you on your yearly reread?
That I haven't spent any money that would go to her in years.
I have spent more money that went to Joanne than Cameron has, I'm sure. I bought the Harry Potter video game a few years ago.
Since like 2019, I've done my absolute damnedest to not
support a turf.
Yeah.
You know what was crazy? I went to a Barnes & Noble yesterday, and there was still a huge section devoted to Harry Potter. And I'm like, who's buying this shit?
It's crazy because it feels like it's so everywhere, but I think it's only everywhere because it's on my algorithm. But not everybody is aware, or maybe worse yet,
they don't care.
Not everybody cares.
It's not everywhere. It's not everywhere. Like
E.
Listen, it was in Barnes & Noble yesterday. Fortunately, it wasn't in the local bookstore I went to. Love my local bookstore. If you're in the San Antonio area, you should check out Book Nerd. But very cool, very progressive, very strong part of the community. Absolutely obsessed with them.
What's the one that we went to?
Nowhere Books?
Yes.
Nowhere Books is also awesome. But I've really taken a liking to Book Nerd. And I love, right when you walk in, the first section you see is Romantasy. And, they have kept their shit stocked with MLM romance. You walk in, first thing you see is a trolley of all of the Heated Rivalry series. Anyway, in the conservative social landscape of the American South in the late 1950s, adoption often carried a silent stigma, a sense of displacement that could burrow deep into a child's psyche. Russell was adopted by Brenda and Thomas Russell, a deeply religious couple who owned a produce business in Virginia. On the surface, Stephen's childhood was the picture of mid-century American stability. There were church suppers, piano lessons, and the comforting rhythm of a family business. But the knowledge of his adoption acted as a slow-acting poison. At the age of 9, the abstract concept of being chosen collided with the harsh reality of being given away. Russell began to ask questions, and he needed to know where he came from. Years later, as a young man, he succeeded in tracking down his biological mother. The reunion was not the kind of tearful embrace that we think of when we think of a Lifetime movie, but rather the confrontation with a brutal reality. Russell discovered that his biological parents had not only remarried each other, but had gone on to raise 3 other children that were his full biological siblings. They had kept their family together, but simply removed him. Gutting. Painful. That's
kind of similar to what happened to my aunt. From what I understand, and I certainly was not there, so forgive me if I've gotten some of the facts or details wrong, partially or entirely. Maybe this is fiction, but from what I understand, when my grandparents were stationed in England, there was a lady who was pregnant and whose husband claimed that it was impossible for him to be the father, had concluded that she had cheated on him, and they had basically worked it out and were going to stay together, but the baby, the pregnancy, all of that had caused so much strife for the relationship that despite them having a son already, they ultimately decided that they were going to give the baby up. And so my grandparents adopted her, but her mother had not been unfaithful. She was her husband's child. And I think they ultimately did get divorced, but it was later on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they stayed together and they raised their son, and they had given her up for adoption.
Yeah. It's impossible for me to fathom how that feels.
Yeah.
I try to put myself in the position of Stephen J. Russell, thinking about, I was given away, but my parents were together and had 3 children who they raised as a nuclear family. And I wasn't a part of that story. Why?
Yeah.
How are you supposed to find comfort in that?
They didn't want me to be a part of that story.
Right. In later interviews, Russell shared that he felt immense rejection, which I think is likely kind of an undersell of what he actually felt. It seemed like it really shattered his sense of self-worth. He's quoted as saying, "I had a little bit of a problem when I found out."
So 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
a gay man, yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we've got somebody who's been ultimately rejected by society, told that things about him are not right, or he's struggling with what society is telling him is okay and what's absolutely not okay, and who he is. And then also, it's almost like a double whammy, right? Like a duality to this rejection. He's being rejected by society and by his birth parents at a level that is difficult to comprehend because they kept everybody but him, in essence.
What was interesting is I was researching this case, and I actually have this included a little further down, but I think I'm just going to talk about it now. Have you heard of a primal wound? And even if you've heard of it, do you feel like you know what it is?
No, but to me it sounds like something that happens, like some event that happens before you're even like fully cognizant.
You nailed primal wound. You got it. And it's often considered to be a catalyst for potential narcissistic or sociopathic development. Kind of the reasoning, if one's true self is rejectable, if the people who created you found you to be disposable, then the logical defense is to create a new self, a better self, a self that is indispensable, impressive, unignorable. What is the face? What is the eyes are tight, but the cheeks are loose. I don't know.
Whoa.
The cheeks are loose.
Whoa.
It's crazy. No loose cheeks here, guys. It's the cheeks here are tight.
Also, whoa, what are you doing now?
We're cracking walnuts.
Oh my god. So I'm wondering if where this is going where is this going?
Well, I mean, there's a great way to find out.
Yeah, but I was waiting, and then you were like, what is that face? You've got loose cheeks over there.
You were just making a weird face. It was like you were either having thoughts, or you were ready to say something, or potentially even identifying with it.
I was having thoughts.
Okay.
But, like, thoughts in, I want to see where this is going, not assume that where I think this is going is correct.
Okay. Russell didn't just want to be accepted. He wanted to be admired. He wanted to be wanted. And if that couldn't happen
Sorry.
It's okay. If he couldn't be admired for who he was, then he would be admired for who he could pretend to be. In his early adulthood, Russell threw himself into the role of the perfect citizen. It was as if he was trying to build a fortress of respectability to protect the wounded child inside. He worked in the family produce business, mastering logistics, supply chains, negotiation skills, all of which would later help him in the prison economy.
Mm-hmm.
He became the organist for his local church, placing himself at the literal and spiritual center of the community. He married a woman named Debbie Davis, who was the daughter of the police chief's secretary, and fathered a daughter, Stephanie. Most significantly, Stephen J. Russell became a cop. I'm sure this isn't going to surprise you. But it ends up being
surprise me.
I knew I was never going to just get to keep going. I knew that was not going to happen.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's no surprise that there's a profound irony in this case. A man who would repeatedly humiliate law enforcement across states began his career wearing a badge.
No, but I think in what you're saying, it's almost like, so I was talking about this duality within the rejection, like really getting it from all sides. But then he's got this duality in the way that he's living, right? Because he's got the one side of him that's like super contributing member of society, protecting and serving the community, married to a woman, having a child with, like, this is the exemplar.
Yes.
And then also almost entirely flipped. Like there's a level of extremes going on here on both ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the things I find so fascinating about this case is that he, exactly what you talked about, living this duality and really just going all in. This man does not have a brake pedal. Russell also volunteered as a reserve sheriff's deputy, wore the uniform, carried the gun, learned the codes. This period was his apprenticeship. By working inside the system, Russell learned the language of authority. He learned that law enforcement isn't some kind of omniscient force, but more of a bureaucracy, kind of run by tired and overworked people who often rely on shortcuts. He learned that a uniform, a confident tone, and the right jargon are often all that's needed to bypass scrutiny. He learned that people generally believe what they see, especially if they're wearing a badge. The pressure of maintaining this facade, the straight family man, the pillar of the community, ultimately became unsustainable. Russell was gay, living in a time and place where such admission could cost him everything. The cognitive dissonance of living this double life is largely thought to have created a fracture in his psyche. And when his adopted father died in 1985, the dam broke. Russell began to act out. At first, he was fired from his job for, quote, lewd conduct in a park, which is a common charge used against gay men in this era, and his marriage dissolved. Stripped of his perfect citizen disguise, Russell didn't crumble. He evolved. He moved to Houston, Texas, the city of his reinvention, and decided that if he couldn't be a respectable family man, he'd be a wealthy one. Russell's entry into the world of crime wasn't through violence, but through theater. He began with the slip and fall scam. This is a pretty classic grift. The con artist has to stage an accident in a public place. Public place? Did I say splace?
I think you did. We've been recording for an hour and a half. I swear to God, this is the beginning of this case.
It is. It is. Well, we're at the beginning middle. The beginning of the middle. What is the song for this season? Good luck and don't, good luck and don't.
Yes. Yeah, I like it.
Me too. Okay. Accident in a public place, a grocery store, a construction site, and then feign injury to collect an insurance settlement. It can be physically demanding work. You might have to throw your body.
But it all helps to prepare him for the ultimate grift of the penal system.
The penal or the penal?
What?
The penile?
No, I didn't say penile. I said the penal.
So sometimes you have to throw your body to the ground. You might have to scream to convince. You have to lie to doctors and insurance adjusters with a straight face. And for Russell, all this shit came naturally. Actually, he treated these scams as acting exercises. He took pride in learning to manipulate medical professionals. He enjoyed learning how to feign symptoms that were that are difficult to disprove, such as back pain and soft tissue damage, and how to negotiate with insurance companies. He also then began to dabble in selling counterfeit Rolex watches. And this was also significant. A fake Rolex works because it exploits the observer's desire to believe in wealth. It shines like the real thing. It ticks like the real thing, mostly. It only fails if you open it up and look at the gears. Russell realized early on that most people, even cops, even judges, rarely look at gears. But in the early 1990s...
No shit. I mean, who's opening their watch up?
Who's opening up a fucking Rolex? Who would do that?
Well, not these guys, because they don't actually have Rolexes.
Honestly, you could give me, like, a counterfeit anything, and I probably wouldn't know.
I definitely wouldn't know. One, you would have to give it to me, because there's no way I'm fucking paying for it. You would have to give it to me. Two, because I didn't actually pay for it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's fake. And I assume that the person who gave it to me, no. Right. All of these things that are like, ooh, fancy, ooh, high end, ooh, name brand. I'm like, because somebody one day decided that name mattered. That doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. What's the actual construction quality? In the early 1990s, his luck ran out. He was arrested for fraud.
Mine too.
He was arrested for fraud and sent to the Harris County Jail. But for Stephen Russell, prison wasn't a punishment. It was a classroom. And unexpectedly, it's where he found the love of his life.
Me too.
No, not you becoming a lesbian. We've already tried this road. Well, okay, we haven't tried this road, but we've not. Sorry, we've just explored the concept of how much nicer it would be to like women than men.
Oh, yeah.
The Harris County Jail is... Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Because you said we've already explored this road, and then you were like, well, we have not actually explored this. Like, you immediately caught what you said.
Neither of us has explored the Yonic Road, the Yonic Expressway. Literally never had any interest. It's so crazy when I hear men talk about women and thinking they're hot. Because I'm like, it doesn't compute to me. Like, I'm so good at empathizing and taking on other people's perspectives. But that's like one where I'm like,
not there.
No, it's like, it's so, and here's the thing. I think women are wonderful. I surround myself with women. Women are literally like the backbone of my life. And I want these majestic creatures, or at one point in time, I wanted these majestic creatures to be attractive to me, but they just never were.
It always eluded you.
And so I never got to take a ride on the Punani Express.
Got to?
Never had the privilege.
Okay. Yeah, I never got to either.
Also, do you think that this is such a fucking digression, but do you think that vaginas are kind of mythologized? Like, these singular and individual creatures that also exist within and on women.
Are you high? What did you have for breakfast?
Sous vide egg bites.
I knew it.
And decaf coffee. I didn't even have caffeinated coffee.
What do you mean in what?
You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've somehow gotten to exploring my own sexuality.
You definitely, more than anybody else in my life, talk about the yonic experience.
It's so elusive. And I guess it almost feels kind of like a boogeyman. Like, maybe if I sat down and talked with one, I would feel better about it. But right now, I just don't know my neighbor. And so I'm left to make all of these conclusions, these inferences.
You want to sit down and have a conversation with a vagina?
You were making me sound crazy.
You're saying things that I'm trying to compute.
All right, anyway, back to business. The Harris County Jail is a bleak concrete holding facility in downtown Houston. It is a place of noise, violence, and transient misery. It is the last place one would expect to find a romance, especially one worthy of a Hollywood film. But in 1995,
is it the last place?
Okay, Cameron, can we just...
Sorry. I'm sorry.
In 1995, inside the jail's law library, Stephen Russell met Philip Morris. The meeting has become part of the Russell mythology. Russell, standing at 6'2", confident and domineering, even in prison whites, spotted Morris. Philip Morris was the physical opposite. 5'2", slight, soft-spoken, with a gentle southern drawl.
A twink.
I didn't say twink.
No, you described a twink.
Morris was struggling to reach a book on a high shelf. Russell stepped in. "Hold on, I'll get that for you." Russell later described the moment as lust at first sight. But the attraction went deeper than physical. Morris was vulnerable. He was gentle. He loved classical music. Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart were his favorites. He was an innocent in a world of wolves. For Russell, who had spent his life constructing armor to protect himself, Morris represented something he had never truly had: someone to protect, and the dynamic was set instantly. Russell would be the provider. He would be the hero. He would give Philip the world, even if he had to steal it first. It's crucial to understand this relationship to understand the crimes that followed. Before Philip Morris, Russell had just been a small-time grifter looking for a payday. But after Philip Morris, Russell became a relentless machine of escape and acquisition. He wasn't just escaping from prison, he was escaping to Philip. Later, Russell's quoted as saying, "I did it for love." And he would tell this to reporters again and again, a quote that became the tagline of his life. While criminologists might argue that sociopaths are incapable of genuine love, Russell's actions suggest a powerful, obsessive attachment that defied self-interest. To escape the escalation of Russell's skills, let's rewind a little bit back to 1992. Before he met Morris, he had his first major escape. And this event would ultimately become the template for all his future capers. Russell was in the Harris County Jail on insurance fraud charges. He was desperate to get out, not for Morris yet, but for his then partner, James Jimmy Kimble, who was actually genuinely dying of AIDS. Russell's motivation has largely always been relational. He didn't dig a tunnel, he didn't fashion a shiv, he watched the guards. He noticed their routines. He noticed that they took smoke breaks, leaving certain corridors unmonitored for minutes at a time. He explored the facility during these gaps and discovered a property room where civilian clothes were stored for female inmates. On March?
I'm with you.
On March 13th. No, it's not even March, it's May. Okay. On May 13th, 1992, a Friday the 13th, a date Russell considered...
Coming up this Friday.
Oh, good. Russell considered Friday the 13th to be lucky, and he would use it for future escapes as well. He made his move. He stole a pair of women's red sweatpants and a tie-dyed t-shirt. A really wild outfit for this very tall man, but it accomplished the most important goal. It didn't look like a prisoner's jumpsuit.
Yeah.
The masterstroke was a prop. Russell acquired a walkie-talkie. In a secure facility, a walkie-talkie is a totem of authority. Inmates don't have them. Visitors don't have them. Only the staff and contractors do. By holding a walkie-talkie, Russell signaled to every brain he passed, "I belong here. I'm working." He walked to the guard station, tapped on the glass, channeling the impatient energy of a maintenance worker who just wants to get to his truck. The guard, seeing the civilian clothes and the radio, buzzed him right on through, and he walked right out the front door. Now, Russell was caught days later in Miami, but the lesson was learned. The walls of a prison may be made of concrete, but the gates are guarded by human assumption. After his release and subsequent reunion with Philip Morris in 1995, Russell decided they needed a lifestyle that matched the intensity of their romance. They wanted the dream. A big house, luxury cars, and status. Russell, a convicted felon... I guess I can't say any words right today. Russell, a convicted felon with a high school education, could not get a legitimate job that would pay for his life, so he invented a new Stephen Russell.
But this is 91. This isn't the 98.
This is 95.
95. But the one that happens in March is...
In May was in 92.
But the one that happens in March that you started with at the very beginning of the story, March 1998, it was a Friday.
Yes.
Was it Friday the 13th?
Yes.
Oh, good. There'll be one of those next month. And this month, but that's how March and February work on a non-leap year.
Okay. Russell set his sights on the North American Medical Management, NAMM, a large medical management company. He applied for the position of Chief Financial Officer, or CFO, and this should have been impossible. A CFO position requires advanced degrees, years of documented experience, and often rigorous background checks, but Russell had none of these. He fabricated a resume that was a work of fiction. He claimed degrees he didn't have. He listed previous experience and executive roles at non-existent companies. And when NAM called the reference numbers he provided, they didn't get past employers. They got Russell. or an accomplice, glowing about Stephen's leadership and financial wizardry. And he got the job. For 5 months, Stephen J. Russell, an escaped convict and con man, ran the finances of a major corporation. He sat in board meetings, he directed policy, he managed millions of dollars. And by some accounts, he wasn't entirely incompetent. His IQ, which is reportedly 163, allowed him to grasp complex financial systems quickly. And he played the part of executive perfectly. He wore the suits, he spoke the jargon, and he charmed the board. But he was also robbing them blind. Russell and Morris lived like royalty in Houston's upscale River Oaks neighborhood. They bought a fleet of Mercedes-Benz cars. They bought jet skis. They bought Rolexes, real ones this time, and they threw lavish parties. The money, approximately $800,000, was siphoned directly from NAM's accounts. Russell used his position to authorize payments to shell companies that he controlled. If this man had a measure of self-control, I think he could have done this for a lot longer. I think he could have gotten away with this for much longer. It was... Go ahead.
Maybe he had an awareness of the fact that at some point the jig will be up. So maybe I'd go big.
Yeah, the other shoe will drop.
And then go home.
Back to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but this is wild, right? Like him being able to fool these people, get into their business for eight months to continue to siphon, or not 8 months, 5 months. But in that time, siphoning almost $1 million.
Yes, but he sounds like he is very adept at being a chameleon and masking, and also I'm gonna assume that he's white and a male.
Mm-hmm. Both correct.
And then he has figured out that confidence is key. You see it if you see somebody who's just walking with confidence in the direction and you're like, I don't think they're supposed to go there, but clearly they look like they know what they're doing. You're less likely to challenge them. And I think that he's just taken that and he's transferred it into getting a job.
He's made them actionable items. He is bam, bam, bam.
Also, I really went down a mental spiral when you started talking about his IQ being 163. And I was like, but IQ is measured by human measurements. So how are we actually, like, I couldn't, because the can of worms was opening and I was like, no, put the lid back on. Because it's one of those things. Don't you have those things sometimes where you start having a thought and it's so big and you're like, this is going to take too much brain power to have to think about this right now, because it like is literally spiraling into a million different neurons in my head. When you said he had an IQ of 163, that's what happened to me.
You
just all of the cylinders started firing, and I was like, stop it. I don't have the energy.
Now. Yeah.
Because like a human IQ test is limited by the humans that decide what makes somebody into...
Hey, you're doing it again.
No, stop.
It was a glorious, manic high. But in the world of corporate finance, auditors are the predators. Eventually, the discrepancies were flagged. The background check that should have happened at the start finally caught up to him. And in 1996, the House of Cards collapsed. Russell and Morris were arrested. Back in the Harris County Jail, Russell faced a new reality. The authorities knew who he was now. They knew he was a flight risk, and the judge set his bond at a staggering $900,000. This figure was designed to be impossible. It was a message. You're not going anywhere. Russell looked at the number and he saw it not as a wall, but as a data entry error waiting to be corrected. From inside the jail, Russell gained access to a telephone. This was his primary weapon. If the walkie-talkie had been a shield, the telephone was now a sword. He called the Harris County District Clerk's office. He didn't whisper. He didn't sound desperate. He lowered his voice an octave, adopting the bored, slightly irritated tone of a man who had been sitting on a bench all day listening to lawyers argue. He identified himself as District Judge Charles Hearn. Judge Hearn was the actual judge presiding over Russell's case. Russell had studied him in the courtroom. He knew the cadence of his speech. He knew the specific legal vernacular used in bond reduction orders.
Is it Hearne?
Hearn.
No E?
No.
Because Hearn is a town in Texas. So I was wondering if there was, like, some sort of legacy there.
No extra E on this one. I need to lower the bond on the Russell case, the judge told the clerk. Drop it to $45,000. And the clerk on the line didn't question it. Why would she? Judges call clerks all the time. The request was formatted correctly, the tone was right, the authority was assumed. And the clerk typed the command into the computer, and the bond was reduced.
Do you know what it is about him? Is that there are so many mundane things that happen every single day that we don't pay any attention to, but he pays attention to them. The tone of the voice, the dropping the voice, the who would call and put this into place. He's taking it all in. I'm thinking I think he and I might have a similar score on an autism assessment. But yeah, he's paying a lot of attention to things that 99.9% of people are not registering or tracking at all.
I would agree with that.
He's studying behavior in a way that's probably similar to your cousin's being
this man is literally a behaviorist. He is navigating and he is manipulating with such ease. He is finding power in the finite. I just, even getting to read about the things that he experienced, that he brought to life, I'm like, this man, his power unmatched.
But we see it, okay. You see it all the time in the education system, though, because you're trying to force children to fit into a specific type of box, and you see kids who get bored and they act out, or they completely disassociate because of how bored they are, because they're actually capable of doing this and then some, that they just won't do this because it's so menial to them. And yeah, he's just he'd probably be labeled gifted in the 90s, really.
Yeah.
If he was a couple decades later.
We could have all been in class together. $45,000 was still a significant sum, but it was reachable. Russell, utilizing his network of perhaps funds that hadn't been seized, wrote a check for the fee. It did end up being a hot check, a bad check that would eventually bounce, but he convinced a rookie bail bondsman to accept it anyway. The bondsman posted the bail, the paperwork was processed. Stephen Russell changed into his civilian clothes, his own clothes this time, and walked out the front door of the Harris County Jail for the second time. When the real Judge Hearn discovered what had happened, he was apoplectic. Russell hadn't just escaped. He had humiliated the court. He had used the system's own bureaucracy against it. He was captured shortly after in Florida, trying to unite with Philip Morris once again, but the legend was growing. The state of Texas had now engaged in a personal war with Stephen J. Russell. They ended up sentencing him to 45 years. They sent him to the Estelle Unit in Huntsville, a maximum security fortress designed to hold the worst of the worst. They thought they had him, but they were wrong. The Estelle Unit is not the Harris County Jail.
Of course they were wrong. They haven't figured out yet that they're playing checkers, because most people know how to play checkers and most people adhere to the rules of checkers, and so checkers is fine for most people. He's not playing checkers.
No.
I don't even know if he's playing chess. I think he's playing Connect 4.
He's doing something so outrageous.
Right. So, of course, it's not working because they're trying to force him to play checkers, and he has no interest in checkers. He's really invested in whatever game it is that he is playing.
I can't wait to tell you about this next one.
Oh, God.
So the Estelle Unit is not the Harris County Jail. It's a prison farm, vast and intimidating, surrounded by razor wire and guard towers. It's a place where inmates are watched constantly. Russell arrived in late 96. He immediately began scanning for vulnerabilities. He noticed that everything was color-coded. In prison, inmates wear white, guards wear gray, but medical staff, doctors and nurses, the people who come and go freely, wore green scrubs. And if he could be green, he could be free. Russell joined the prison's art class. It seemed like, a harmless hobby, a way for an inmate to pass the time. But Russell wasn't painting landscapes.
No, he was figuring out the right type of green to dye his white inmate outfit because it brought out his eyes or something.
He began to steal green felt tip markers. One by one, he smuggled them back to his cell. He hid them under his mattress, and he needed dozens of them. On a quiet night in December 1996, Russell began his experiment. He broke open the markers and extracted the ink cartridges. He filled the stainless steel sink in his cell with water and submerged the cartridges. The water turned a deep emerald green. He took his white prison uniform, the symbol of his captivity, and submerged it in the dye bath. It was a gamble. The smell of the alcohol-based ink was likely pungent, and if a guard had walked by during a count and seen the sink full of green liquid, it probably would have led to some kind of confinement immediately. But Russell soaked the uniform.
That would require people paying attention to the small details, which most people don't do.
Russell soaked the uniform and even agitated it to ensure an even color. When he pulled it out, it wasn't perfect. It was a dyed prison uniform, but under the harsh flickering fluorescent lights of the prison corridors, it looked enough like scrub green to pass. And then, on Friday, December 13th, 1996, another Friday the 13th, Russell enacted his plan. He waited for a moment of high traffic. He put on the damp green uniform. He stepped out of his cell. He didn't sneak. He didn't run. He walked with purpose. He adopted the persona of a doctor. He channeled the arrogance of a medical professional who was late for a golf game. He looked annoyed. He walked toward the gatehouse, and the guard at the desk looked up. Russell looked at her, then looked past her as if she were furniture. The guard saw the green, the guard saw the attitude, and she buzzed the door. And Russell walked right into the sunlight.
Dripping green as he went.
As he crossed the prison yard toward the perimeter fence, he had to pass a guard tower. The officer in the tower, armed with the high-powered rifle, looked down. He saw a man in green walking towards the woods. Now, supposedly, and this is according to a publication I found called The Great Escapee, this officer who was sitting with the gun inside of the tower in the turret actually looked down and said, "Damn, Doc, those look like prison whites you're wearing." And this was the moment of truth.
As he's heading towards the woods instead of to a car in the parking lot.
No, that's supposedly. That's just what I saw in that publication. Who knows? This was the moment of truth. A lesser con man would have frozen or run, but Russell didn't flinch. He looked up at the man with the gun, smiled, and yelled back, "Well, don't shoot." He laughed, the guard laughed, and it was a joke. Just a doctor with a bad laundry service. So Russell kept walking. He reached the tree line, and once he was out of the sight of the tower, the doctor vanished.
I don't think that's how laundry works. It doesn't change scrubs to make them look like the inmate uniform.
Morris has said that he turned his back towards the prison, raised his middle finger in a final salute, and fully disappeared into the woods.
Morris?
Sorry, Russell.
Okay.
He hitchhiked to Houston, where he went to Herman Hospital, still playing the role, and then fled in a taxi without paying the fare. He and Morris reunited. They ran to Biloxi, Mississippi to gamble and live life on the run. But the law was relentless. They were tracked down to a motel room. The arrest was almost comedic. Morris, furious at Russell for sneaking out to an adult bookstore, had locked Russell out of the room. When Russell banged on the door to get back in, Morris called the front desk to report an intruder. The police arrived and found out the most wanted man in Texas was pounding on the door of his own hideout.
Okay, you know what it is? Russell gets off on the escape, on
right.
like outsmarting the people there, because he is very intelligent. We've seen that,
The
you know,
command,
163
the power.
IQ. But he's not actually committed to staying out, because he's smart enough that he could navigate being out successfully. He could,
Yes.
but he doesn't. And that's a choice that he makes. He, because he's got nothing better to do while he's in prison, spends his time trying to figure out, how can I get one over on them this time? How can I pull this off this time? And then once he's out, he's like, meh. It's like half-assed once he's out.
He stops giving a shit. He's like, okay.
And it is hard to, because then when he's out, he's reconnecting with Morris, and when there are two of you, it is harder.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's drawing so much attention to himself by taking a taxi and then not paying the fare once he gets to the hospital, like, that's very intentional, because you don't want to do anything that's going to draw unwelcome attention to you, which that would do.
Right.
So it's like, once he's made it away from the guard with the gun, he's like, hee hee, and then just kind of stops caring that much.
Tee hee hee. Fooled you again. By 1998, Stephen Russell was back in custody. He was sent to the Styles unit. The authorities were done taking chances. They watched him closely, and his sentence was effectively life. Russell realized that he couldn't escape the prison walls again. The physical security was too tight. This time he would have to escape the system. He had to make the system want to get rid of him. So he decided to die. Russell then began a regimen of self-destruction. He started taking laxatives, he stopped eating, he was 6'2", and over the course of a few months his weight plummeted. He dropped to 153 pounds and became skeletal. His eyes sank into his skull. He was frail, shaking, and pale. He began to fake the symptoms of AIDS, a disease that was still a death sentence in the late 90s prison system. He feigned night sweats. He acted confused, mimicking AIDS-related dementia. But looking sick wasn't enough. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice runs on paperwork. Russell needed proof. He gained access to a prison typewriter. He began to forge medical records. He created lab reports showing plummeting T-cell counts. He created doctor's notes detailing his rapid decline. He even managed to get outside help. He befriended an inmate who was a doctor, or posed as one, and had him write a letter on smuggled medical stationery, confirming that Russell was in the end stages of the disease and only had weeks to live. The prison medical staff reviewed the file. They saw the lab reports forged. They saw the doctor's letter forged, and they saw the patient, a wasting, dying man in a wheelchair. Incredibly, no one ran a new blood test. The stigma of AIDS combined with the bureaucratic inertia of the prison system worked in Russell's favor. They didn't want to touch him. They didn't want to pay for his death. And so he applied for a special needs parole, which was granted. And now, back to March 13th, 1998, Stephen Russell was transferred to a nursing home in Houston. He was a free man. As soon as the parole officers left, the dying man made a miraculous recovery and walked out of the nursing home. He made the phone call that was described in the opening vignette. He had effectively killed off Stephen Russell so that he could be reborn. Russell was free, but he was a ghost, and he needed resources to get Morris, who was also back in legal trouble, out. So he went to Dallas. He walked into the Nation's Bank branch. He was no longer Stephen Russell, the dead AIDS patient. He was Arthur Sadler, a millionaire from Virginia. He asked for a $75,000 loan. But the bank was suspicious. They called the police, they called the FBI, and Russell sensed the trap closing. As authorities arrived, he played his last card, he clutched his chest, and collapsed to the floor. "My heart," he gasped. The paramedics rushed him to the hospital. He was placed under guard, but Russell had his cell phone. Lying in the hospital bed, monitored by machines, he dialed the hospital security desk and identified himself as an FBI agent. "I'm Agent Thomas," he might have said. "The suspect Russell is in federal witness. We are taking jurisdiction. Release him immediately." Now, of course, that's just me fictionalizing what he said, but he did pose as an FBI officer.
Right.
It sounds impossible. It sounds like a cartoon. But the confusion in the hospital, with the authority of the FBI on the line, the staff obeyed and Russell walked out of the hospital. At this point,
they figured out that it was Russell?
Yes.
But he was dead.
Exactly. So the bank didn't know it was Russell, but they thought that the story was really suspicious, which led them calling the police, which ultimately led to them.
It was suspicious because I thought, you're a millionaire. Again, this is an example of once he's got freedom, he's almost too brazen sometimes. He's drawing unnecessary attention to himself. I am a millionaire, but I need a $75,000 loan.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, the net was already a little too tight, and the U.S. Marshals were able to track him using his phone. And they found him in Florida in April of 1998, where he was arrested while retrieving a fax. At this point, the game was actually over. The state of Texas had been humiliated. They sentenced Stephen J. Russell to 144 years in prison, 99 years for the escapes and 45 years for the scams consecutive. They sent him to the Allen B. Polunsky Unit in Livingston, Texas, also known as the home of death row. It is a supermax facility designed to break the human spirit. And for the next 26 years, Stephen Russell lived in a concrete box measuring 6 by 10 feet. He also stayed in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. 1 hour of recreation in a cage. No contact with inmates, no contact with guards. The Houdini of the prison system was buried alive.
Until when?
Years turned into decades, and the world outside changed. The internet exploded, phones became computers, presidents came and went, but Russell sat in his box. He read books, he wrote letters, he aged, and the man who could scale walls and charm judges developed back problems, until the point where he needed a wheelchair. The fire that had driven him to escape 4 times seemed to have been extinguished by the crushing isolation. He was interviewed occasionally by journalists, speaking through thick plexiglass, his voice tinny over a phone handset. He maintained his sense of humor and his charm, but, again, like a lion in a zoo, toothless and gray. And then the impossible happened again. On July 16th, 2024, the heavy steel doors of the Polunsky Unit opened, and Stephen J. Russell, the man sentenced to die in prison, the man with 144 years on his head, was paroled. He was 66 years old, and he had served 28 years. This time, he didn't have to dye his uniform green or fake a heart attack. He simply rolled out into the Texas heat, where he was met by Lawrence Watts, a writer who had helped him tell his story. Stephen Russell is now a free man, but has entered into a world that, by and large, has been hostile towards his skill set. The era of the paper con is over. It's much harder to impersonate judges with a phone call. Digital authentication really prevents a lot of these issues. Much harder to forge medical records with a typewriter. Electronic databases are instantly cross-referenced. And you can't walk out of a prison with a walkie-talkie. Biometric scanners track every movement. There's not a whole lot of information about Stephen J. Russell post-release. As far as I know, he is still alive. He is still going. But ultimately, not to make this a love story, right? I don't want to romanticize it too much. But I think at the center of this is kind of this enigma of love, because every time Stephen escaped, the first thing he did was run to Philip Morris, and ultimately was motivated to be with him, to help him, to get him out of jail when that's where he was. I don't know if maybe the relationship was kind of an excuse for Russell to play the games that he so enjoyed, like we talked about earlier. But I think it's an interesting perspective, an interesting possibility. And that's my case about Stephen J. Russell.
So you opted to not answer my question that I asked. when you were talking about solitary. I said until when, because I was listening to an inmate who's been on death row for, I think he was there for 24 or 28 years, and then they found evidence that overturned his conviction. He was released for 2 years, but the prosecution was like, we still want to try him for this, even though DNA actually proved that he wasn't there. And after 2 years, they reinstated his conviction on a legal loophole and returned him to death row.
Awesome.
And you were talking about how he was in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day with 1 hour of recreational time daily. And this guy specifically was asked about that. He's done his interviews from death row. The podcast is called 1 Minute Remaining, which I didn't really understand until it clicked on and said, you have 1 minute remaining. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because the interviews are all conducted online from prison. He said that, nearly 3 decades ago when he went in, that was the case, but that so much advancements has been done within the field of psychology and the impact that solitary confinement has on people, that actually it's not like that anymore. So I was wondering if Texas is behind the times. Probably not, though, because they're very concerned about being embarrassed. So I'm sure that they're really up to date on things. But I was wondering if he was genuinely, up until 2024, 23 hours a day with 1 hour of recreation.
So in 2018, he actually penned an article for the Huffington Post. And it was titled, Jim Carrey Made a Movie About Me. Here's what it didn't show about life in prison. And he goes on to kind of talk about in detail just how long he was in solitary confinement. At the time of his writing, he was still in solitary confinement, and that was already more than 22 years. And then on solitarywatch.org, it does mention that he spent nearly 27 years in solitary confinement.
Wow, Texas. So, look at you with egg on your face. Again, in one episode. I like that you told me a case that doesn't involve death. Really, other than somebody faking his death.
I love that this man just outsmarted the people around him time and time again. Yeah. And like you said, he became so haphazard the moment he walked out the doors. Everything, fuck it.
It was about getting out. It was about pulling one over on the system. You think that the system is infallible, that this is impenetrable, and I'm gonna penetrate it.
And he did, over and over and over again, maintaining the motif of Friday the 13th, of this ongoing unlucky but lucky for him time. I don't know, something about it is so cunty. This man would have made a great drag queen.
There's still time.
It's never too late. So I've seen I Love You, Philip Morris. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of articles about Stephen J. Russell. You could pick any of them to give a look and learn more. He balled out. He did what he did. He did what he did best.
Well, I enjoyed this story. Love an intelligent queen.
With an IQ of 163.
Well, if you say that anymore, I'm gonna be forced to go down the rabbit hole
of IQ.
It's just such a fallible,
No, I'm just teasing. It's okay. You don't have to go there.
I'm not sure that I can help it.
Well, besties, that's all we've got for this episode. Thank you for listening.
Until the next crime.
If you enjoyed listening and want to hear more, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Or send us really sweet messages all the way from Australia, New Zealand, Greenland, Iceland,
Hearn, Texas, wherever you are.
Hearn, the UK, Bing Bang Bong, Victoria, Canada, other places.
A complete list of sources can be found in the episode description.
Recommend us to a friend, and if you are able and willing to help us produce this podcast, we always welcome you to sign up for our Patreon.
The link to joining our supportive bestie tier is only $2 a month to help us produce this, and the link is in the show notes as well. Make sure that you're following us at End of Crime Pod on Instagram.
And our email address is endofcrimepod@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out with questions or episode suggestions. We love them. And Rebecca, please know I'm still working on Starlight Tours, but know that that's still on my mind. I take your suggestions seriously. And so hopefully one day I can produce something worth listening to.